Hello everyone, I'm Fred Abley, your instructor for IST 10, and this is our weekly overview. Alright, so welcome to April, and we're getting ready to go into the final weeks of the course, which I'm sure many of you are starting to see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, but we still have a couple major deliverables on the calendar, and I want to go over some of that today. So there's going to be 2 weekly intro videos this week. So you're going to see this one, which kind of goes over the broader picture, and then I'm also uploading another video with some project tips that help clarify some of the elements of the project document so that there's no confusion. And if there is some confusion, yeah, you could always email me and contact me if you have any questions. So first and foremost, I'm going to be reviewing the project documents, the progress reports, and then reaching out to the individual teams. So make sure you look for that contact email from me. And if I have any questions or concerns, I'm going to probably try to reach out to the teams and see what we could do to work certain things out. I'm hoping by now, though, you are putting enough time into the project because really, folks, it's due at the end of the month. It's due in roughly 1, 2, 3.5 weeks. So 3.5 weeks. It's almost a 40-page document, a little bit, a little less than 40 page, and you're going to want to make sure you're already working on this. So coming into the last lab really had us doing a number of things that were new to everybody, right? And when I say working new, the thing is you were creating tables and building keys. So if you look forward now, you're going to see in lab number 7, we're going to actually be taking the data and doing a data load. That means we're going to insert the data into the tables that you built. One of the things you're going to find is if you built your keys or your tables with certain data types, you may have to change them based on the data that we're giving you. So this is a little bit of a lesson that we learned in database development, making sure that you always can gather your requirements so you can clearly identify how to build structures and so on. It wasn't meant to trick anybody, but it is sometimes a process that we bump into from time to time. Beyond that is Lab 8. Now Lab 8, you're going to see is it edges a little bit into more coding. We're going to be doing some embedded SQL. And embedded SQL is really when we could take programming language construct and wrap it around SQL statements so they can interact with one another. It's really one of the true strengths of coding for a database technology, and it's really one of my favorite things. As an Oracle developer, I would work on PL SQL, and the PL SQL would be intertwined with SQL statements, whether create statements, insert statements, deletes, and select. You were working with them right in the programming language. PHP probably is the most contemporary easily accessible technologies as it interacts with maybe a MySQL database and so on. Very similar capabilities. So that's Lab 8. I just moved the due date for Lab 7 in the calendar. I noticed that when we were laying out the course, Lab 7 and 8 were due on the same Sunday along with the project work. So it just seemed like too much all coming together. You have about 2 weeks to get Lab 7 in. The week after that is Lab 8, and then several days after that, all the project stuff is done. So what I hope you can do is don't just coast through this week. This lab should be chiseled away with, just like the other ones. If you can get it done early, get it done early. But don't wait until late next week, because then you're going to be in trouble. Okay, let's take a look at what's coming up in this lab. Okay, as I just mentioned, you could see now in the calendar here, this is April. And what we're looking at here is the final major events in that last week. Classes end for Penn State on the 30th, and then we go into a finals exam week. There is no final exam in this course, so really the class comes to a final conclusion on the 30th. And you can see you have several deliverables. You have your reflection report, peer evaluations, which I'll go over later on in the semester, in the month, and then your problem document that you've been working on. But here we are in the 4th. And I've put the due date for Lab 7 on the 17th. So all you have really coming due this coming weekend is the Chapter 13 assessment that is due on the 10th. Now, once again, use this time to get ahead on the lab. And you could actually start to press towards Lab 8, which is that embedded coding one. There's this one's going to take a little bit of time too, and I'll go over that in a separate video later on this month. But if you look at it now, it might be a good idea just to get your feet wet, or at least familiar with it, and go from there. So let's just hop over here. I'm going to jump over to the course itself, and I have not turned on the new page yet. I'll do that here shortly. But if you were to come down and jump into the lab for lab 7, we'll see here what it looks like. Now, this lab 7, like I said, is going to be utilizing more SQL commands that are relatively new. First and foremost, the insert statement now. In the last lab, in lab 6, we used the create statement. Now you're going to be using an insert and an update. The insert revolves around the data here in this particular script, which is a text file. And if you were to click on it, you could see that this is a pretty heavy-duty script. It's nothing to be afraid of. Now, this is going to insert the data into the tables that were provided in lab 7. All right. Now, what's real important to understand, though, if you go back here and we look at the lab, it kind of walks you through it, and you can see here that it says here, in order to start the lab, you must have successfully completed lab 6. I'll be doing my best to get you feedback and some advice to fixing your lab assignments so that you're as in good condition as possible to move forward into lab 7. So what you should all have, now that you've turned it in, is 14 tables, right? They should all exist. So part 1, right, you're going to actually run that script, and that will insert the data inside of the tables provided. Now, part 2, you're going to insert the data into the second set of tables, and those are the ones that you created. The values that you're going to insert there are provided also here. So the script here is going to insert the data in the tables that we provided you in lab 6. You built the second set of tables, and then you're going to utilize the data we have right here below that section. And you can see that some of the data types, so you could take some liberty and some creativity, just make sure that they match each other now, or they go into your tables the way you expect them to. So you can see for the most part, there's a lot of character strings here and so on, but then there's some numerical data. Make sure your data types are appropriate for those tables. In the last part of the lab, you're going to be doing something now. Once all your data is inserted and loaded into those tables, all 14, you're going to actually go in and write some SQL that's going to update some errors. Or it actually says fix the errors. So you're going to come in here, and using the update statement, you're going to come in and update Murphy's zip code. So if you look here, you can see that you have a customer here. His name is Murphy, and his actual customer account is right here, Daniel Murphy. Well, he has an incorrect zip code, and we provide you with the new one. So you'll have to come up with the update statement that'll go in there and correct that syntax. The second one is this. It says Walker did not rent Fahrenheit 9/11, but rather Good Will Hunting. The mistake was made by the clerk in the store, so there is no charge in the amount of the rental. I will tell you right now, when you do number 2, there's actually 2 separate updates here. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that. Make sure you read that full correction. And then you're going to upload all of this work as a PDF file, all right? It has to be in a PDF file. We're going to try to continue to go on that route. Make sure that it's clearly labeled and clearly organized. I think that was one of the biggest things I saw from last week's lab. A lot of haphazard updates or submissions, a lot of jumbled stuff. Problem solutions were not numbered clearly, so I was really doing a lot of extra work just to figure out what you were submitting. And I don't think you want to lose points just because I can't figure it out. So do yourself a favor, clearly label, clearly mark, put it in a PDF file, and then upload that. Okay, so that's what's coming in this lab. As you can see, it's got a number of moving parts, so don't put it off to the last. Okay, so now you have an overview of the lab, and in the other video that I'm going to upload here shortly is going to also be an overview of the project. But you have a good sense now of the work that's coming, and that you want to make sure you don't put all this off to the last minute. So if you have any questions coming up for the following week or 2, make sure you reach out to me, email me. You know how to get a hold of me, and I get back to you. All right, have a great week, everybody. Go forward and do great things. See you later.